The viral video that ruined an All-Star's NBA career. When players are drafted into the NBA, they usually have a few goals to aim for, which consists of playing to the best of their ability, helping their team win, have a long and healthy career, which includes avoiding injuries as much as possible, and perhaps more importantly, make sure they do not run into trouble, like being in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. And for the most part, that's exactly what Josh Howard did, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to avoid a few controversial moments in his NBA career. Let's take it all the way back to the very beginning. Josh Howard chose to sign with Wake Forest in 1999, where he carved out a very productive college career, averaging 19.5 points per game, 18.3 rebounds per game, 2.1 assists per game, and 1.5 blocks per game, including being selected as the ACC Player of the Year. Entering the 2003 NBA Draft, Josh Howard was projected to be a mid to late first-round pick, which is exactly what happened as the Dallas Mavericks selected him 29th overall in the first round. The same draft that included LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. So he definitely had some competition and needed to work hard if he wanted to stand out in his rookie class. He had a pretty average rookie season due to his average stat line, but he did earn himself a spot on the NBA All-Rookie second team. In his second season, Howard continued to come off the bench, only playing in garbage time. But when his teammate Marquise Daniels went down with an injury, Howard was granted his spot in the starting lineup, where his numbers began to increase due to more playing time. Now, nobody really wants to see a fellow teammate go down, but that was probably the best thing that could have happened to Josh, because the opportunity allowed him to average a career high in scoring, and to become a very important piece on the Dallas Mavericks. The following season, his career, along with the Dallas Mavericks, were rolling. Josh Howard was a vital part in the Mavs' run to the finals, where they were undefeated every time Howard scored at least 20 points or more. They finally reached the NBA Finals in 2006, where they quickly went up 2-0 in the series against the Miami Heat. It looked like Dallas was on the way to becoming eventual champions, but suddenly they took their foot off the gas, and at the same time, the combination of a young and athletic D Wade, along with the still very dominant Shaquille O'Neal, went on to win 4 consecutive games and claimed the Larry O'Brien Trophy. The Mavericks were understandably heartbroken by the loss. But the very next season, it seemed like they were on a mission to reach the finals once again and take what they believe is theirs. During that 06-07 season, the Mavericks won a season-best 67 games. And although Dirk Nowitzki was the one to win the regular season MVP award, many believe they wouldn't have won that many games without Josh Howard's 18.9 points per game that season, which also earned him a spot on the All-Star team that year in Las Vegas. The Mavericks were looking like the team to beat in the playoffs. But we all know what happened that year in the postseason, as the 8th seed Golden State Warriors upsetted the Mavs in the first round, and they were embarrassed once again as their incredible season ended prematurely. The following postseason was more of the same, with yet another disappointment as they ran into Chris Paul and the New Orleans Hornets in the first round. Although Josh Howard was contributing nicely to his team on the court, his off-the-court actions didn't help his team at all. In the middle of the first round series against New Orleans, Josh Howard decided to make an appearance on the Michael Irvin's radio show right before Game 3 of the series, and he would go on to admit that he smokes marijuana. That statement made people around the team scratch their heads with confusion, especially the owner Mark Cuban and the head coach Avery Johnson, because they didn't quite understand the timing of the situation. They were confused on why Josh Howard would openly admit that he smoked weed right in the middle of a playoff series, and predictably, Howard's comments caused a major distraction around the team and were eliminated shortly after by the Hornets. Eventually, the situation blew over and was forgotten about. However, just a few months later, Josh Howard found himself participating in yet another controversy. This time, it was something that would ruin his reputation and perhaps his career. In 2008, a video was leaked on YouTube of Josh at a charity football game. The Star-Spangled Banner was playing in the background, and Howard says,
Nigga low, shouts out. Star-Spangled Banner going on right now. I don't even celebrate that shit. I'm black, goddamn Obama, all that shit.
He claims that he was just joking around amongst his friends, but it was too late. The video went viral, and he was hit with heated and angry reactions all over the sports world, and he lost many fans in the process. Mark Cuban came to Howard's defense by saying, "He's a great guy with a good heart who happened to make a mistake." But still, followers of the NBA were beginning to develop a negative image of Howard. Eventually, the organization realized that things were not working out with Josh Howard and ended up trading him to the Washington Wizards in 2010. He said he wished he could have finished his career in Dallas, but understands that he needed a fresh start somewhere else. But unfortunately, he tore his ACL in his left knee in just his 4th game with the Wizards. And to make matters even worse, just a year later, the Dallas Mavericks would win the title without him, getting the revenge they've always wanted against the same franchise Miami Heat they lost to many years ago, while he had to sit at home and watch them celebrate. It looked like his career was heading downhill as soon as he reached his peak. Josh would go on to play for the Utah Jazz for 1 season, and then the Minnesota Timberwolves, where he would tear his ACL again, but this time in his right knee, just 1 month into the season, and was released 6 days later. Soon, teams began to lose interest in Howard, so a year later, he had no other choice but to join the D-League, where he played for the Austin Toros. But sadly, he suffered another season-ending injury and was waived by the team. But he didn't give up yet. He believed he could still play the game of basketball, so he joined the New Orleans Pelicans Summer League team in 2014 and found himself fighting for his basketball life on the very same Las Vegas court where he was once named an NBA All-Star in the past. But like always, it didn't quite work out the way he wanted it to, and finally came to the realization that his body just can't do it anymore. Even though it was mostly injuries that caused his career to disappear, it all started with that heavily scrutinized video that stained his image and created a negative perception of himself. He says it still hurts that most people only remember him for that video, but he knows it doesn't define him as a person. It's crazy to think that Josh Howard was once considered to be a very valuable piece on a potential championship team, to suddenly someone who was struggling to stay in the league during his last few seasons due to injuries along with off-the-court situations that caused his career to be cut short. He still continues to have basketball be a big part of his life, as he is now currently the head coach of Piedmont International University. So what do you guys think about the unfortunate events that eventually derailed Josh Howard's career? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.